What is your real name?
Malcolm X.
Is that your legal name?
As far as I'm concerned, it's my legal name.
If you can't do for yourself what the white man is doing for himself, don't say you're equal with the white man. Right? If you can't set up a factory like he sets up a factory, don't talk that old equality talk. Who are you? You don't know. Don't tell me Negro, that's nothing. What were you before the white man named you a Negro? And where were you? And what did you have? What was yours? What language did you speak then? What was your name? It couldn't have been Smith or Jones or Bunch or Powell. That wasn't your name. They don't have those kind of names where you and I came from. No, what was your name? And why don't you now know what your name was then? Where did it go? Where did you lose it? Who took it? And how did he take it? What tongue did you speak? How did the man take your tongue? Where is your history? How did the man wipe out your history? How did the man, what did the man do to make you as dumb as you are right now?
When Earl and Louise Little moved with their 3 small children to Omaha, Nebraska, the Ku Klux Klansmen warned Louise, then pregnant with Malcolm, to get her family out of town because her husband was stirring up trouble in the black community with the Universal Negro Improvement Association. On May 19, 1925, Malcolm Little was born at University Hospital in Omaha, Nebraska. Twice the family had to move after their house was burned down. When Malcolm was in kindergarten, Earl Little was run over by a train. Rumor holds that he was murdered by the Black Legion, a local white supremacist group. Louise Little was declared legally insane and formally committed to the state mental hospital, where she remained for 26 years. Malcolm told his favorite teacher that he wanted to become a lawyer. His teacher responded, "That's no realistic goal for a nigger." From then on, Malcolm moved from foster home to foster home until he moved to Boston to live with his paternal sister, Mrs. Ella Collins.
In Boston, Malcolm worked for the New Haven Railroad Company and gained exposure to Boston's underworld fringe. In 1943, he moved to New York and committed himself to a life of crime. He was indicted in 1946 for carrying firearms and breaking and entering.
While in prison, Malcolm met a man named Bimby, who played a very important role in transforming the young hustler into a persuasive speaker and strong leader. Bimby was self-educated. He spoke with intelligence and eloquence. Malcolm learned from him how to persuade an audience not through verbal aggression, but by speaking articulately. Malcolm greatly respected Bimby and took his advice to become more educated. After a correspondence class in English, Malcolm wrote, "The ability to read awoke in me some long dormant craving to be mentally alive." Also during his years behind bars, Malcolm's brother Reginald convinced him to join the black Muslim society called the Nation of Islam.
No one has lived more so in the society of whites than I. And it was only until I became a Muslim that I ceased living in the society of whites.
You say you were thoroughly integrated with the whites, Malcolm?
Prison authorities were so impressed with Malcolm's transformation that they released him early after serving 6 years of his 10-year sentence. He built a bond with the Nation of Islam's leader, Elijah Muhammad, through letters exchanged during his time in prison. The Nation of Islam restricted membership to African Americans. The founder of the NOI and predecessor to Elijah Muhammad, W.D. Fard, pledged indifference to the United States of America and preached to his followers a bitter contempt for all white, blue-eyed devils, to whom he contributed centuries of black oppression. Few correlations exist between Orthodox Islam and the teachings of W.D. Fard. Among them is strict abstinence from alcohol, pork, and adultery. Thus, 27-year-old Malcolm Little emerged from prison, Malcolm X, a new man cleansed of pork and alcohol, in August 1952. X represents the unknown, and it reminds movement participants of the Nation of Islam's core principles: ex-Christian, ex-slave.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
The Honorable Elijah
For
Muhammad.
the first time in a long time, Malcolm X felt the warmth and healing power of family. at home in the company of his brothers at the Nation of Islam temple in Detroit. His visit to the house of Elijah Muhammad amplified Malcolm's newfound loyalty. Muhammad sensed in him the qualities of a fierce converter. Malcolm X embraced this new position and hurried back to Detroit to save others from the sinful habits. The membership of the Nation of Islam was tripled within months. In 1954, Malcolm X was given leadership of the Temple No. 7 in Harlem. Here he met and married fellow Muslim Betty Shabazz. Together they had 6 daughters. Malcolm dearly loved his family and longed to be with them more, but work kept him away for long periods of time. It was in this time that Malcolm X published a newspaper, Muhammad Speaks, from out of his own basement. It became the largest circulating black publication in the country.
Just as Uncle Tom, back during slavery, used to keep the Negroes from resisting the Bloodhound or resisting the Ku Klux Klan by teaching them to love their enemy or pray for those who use them despitefully. Today, Martin Luther King is just a 20th century or modern Uncle Tom or a religious Uncle Tom who is doing the same thing today to keep Negroes defenseless in the face of attack that Uncle Tom did on the plantation to keep those Negroes defenseless in the face of the attacks of the Klan in that day.
With Malcolm X fueling the fire, a hatred for the white race flamed in the ghettos of the United States. Militant leaders of the Nation of Islam believed that progress would only be made through aggression. Malcolm X worked persistently to make white Americans feel threatened by an increasingly unified black community. He applauded aggression and strongly believed that no progress could be made without the threat of violence, while rejecting the notion that he promoted hate. Although most black Muslims stood ready for violence, often overlooked is that many members rejected the nation's forceful cosmology. Civil rights activists of the time, in particular Martin Luther King Jr., dreamed of desegregation, one without a single weapon.
The goal of Dr. Martin Luther King is to give Negroes a chance to sit in a segregated restaurant beside the same white man who had brutalized them for 400 years.
Malcolm X wanted complete segregation of black and white. He wanted a society ruled and inhabited only by his African brothers. He was willing to take lives for this dream if necessary, and in 1963, when 200,000 people gathered in the Capitol to sing and promote racial understanding, Malcolm X asserted that singing wouldn't make any difference.
I will never say that progress is being made. If you stick a knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, there's no progress.
In 1964, rumors surfaced that Elijah Muhammad had fathered 8 children from 6 different women who were associated with the nation. Malcolm X retrieved evidence from the mothers themselves, and when he talked to Muhammad, he did not deny it. Malcolm X felt deeply betrayed. Muhammad worried that if the news about multiple affairs was exposed, the members of the nation would leave him and follow Malcolm X instead. Nation leaders used Malcolm's newspaper, Muhammad Speaks, to publish negative articles about Malcolm X. Once informed that Elijah Muhammad ordered for him to be killed, Malcolm separated himself from the Nation of Islam for good. He began studying Orthodox Islam and secretly stole away to make his pilgrimage to Mecca. This event transformed him. He formed bonds with Muslims of all races. He established himself as a promoter of black nationalism and Orthodox Islam, no longer rejecting the integration of blacks and whites. February 21st, 1965, in Manhattan's Audubon Ballroom, Malcolm X had begun to speak to a meeting of the Organization of Afro-American Unity when a disturbance broke out. As Malcolm X and his bodyguards moved to quiet the disturbance, a man rushed forward and shot him in the chest. He died soon after in the Columbia Presbyterian Hospital. The legacy of Malcolm X still remains as prominent as ever. Though many reasons may be justified to his remembrance, there are 3 points that stand out. His uncompromising opposition to racism and imperialism, his determination to expose the facade of the U.S. democracy, and his commitment to the revolutionary transformation of society. Malcolm X has been described as one of the greatest and most influential African Americans in history. He is credited with raising the self-esteem of black Americans and reconnecting them with their African heritage.
We declare our right on this earth to be a man, to be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given the rights of a human being in this society, on this earth, in this day, which we intend quick